How a culture defines child has a great deal to do with how children are treated within that culture. In some cultures, child is perceived as property I love that is born with original sin and therefore needs threats and punishment to build a good person. Among most of the native peoples of the world, there is a different emphasis. For example, among the Lakota Sioux Nation, the word child means sacred being. Among the Maori, that word child can be translated into gift of God. The Circle of Courage model is based on a First Peoples child rearing philosophy and upon their child raising practices. It's their formula for creating a person who is motivated, caring, self disciplined and responsible, thoughtful, and wise, not just intelligent, wise. And creating this person with non punitive methods, avoiding the infliction of pain, the use of punishment, or instilling fear to gain compliance, negative reinforcement as it's known in applied behavior analysis. This orientation is illustrated in an Indian medicine wheel. There are different interpretations for the importance of this imagery, that it represents the circle of life, that the number 4 is a sacred number among native peoples in North America. It reflects the 4 directions of the compass. But one thing that is important to note is that all parts touch, showing the interconnectivity and the influence of each part upon the others. The parts are interconnected. Improvements in one area build and strengthen the others. For example, being generous strengthens one's sense of being connected to the community. It builds belonging. And feeling a sense of belonging with one's community brings out one's generosity. Building mastery in a certain area allows one to make informed choices. Making those informed choices and being responsible and goal-directed brings mastery. If all parts of the wheel are strong, we get a well-adjusted, likable person of good character. If some parts are bent, distorted, or broken, we find a troubled or troubling person. Now, one question that might be asked of individuals who are not from a First Peoples heritage is, can an Indian medicine wheel model have any applicability to my life, to my non-native self? Research, be it data-based research or ethnographic research, indicates that there are certain core values and needs in all cultures. These are qualities that characterize well-adjusted, pro-social individuals all over this granite planet. So it's not just on the res that these things apply. Let's do a comparison of the Circle of Courage model with the belief systems, the practices, and the teachings of various other cultures. Haim Gonod presents us a Western European modern view of how to raise children in supportive, positive, and non-punitive ways. His book, Between Parent and Child, and then extended in a book by Faber and Maslich called How to Talk So Kids Will Listen and Listen So Kids Will Talk, illustrate those principles. It also is in agreement, the Circle of Courage model, with the yin and yang of the Far East cultures, all things being in proportion, balance, harmony. It is also in agreement with the thoughts of W.E.B. Du Bois and his emphasis on self-determination, human rights, the struggle for the group, developing a moral sense and leadership. To paraphrase W.E.B. Du Bois, being given responsibility is the first step in building responsibility, something that is hard for many people to give to what they consider to be irresponsible kids. Let's look now at some pictorial representations of how other belief systems might match up with the Circle of Courage model. You may wish to pause the podcast at various points to take a longer look at each of these visual representations. First up is the developmental psychology model a la Maslow's growth needs. We see in the autonomy quadrant that would be interpreted in Maslow's terms as self-governing moral independence. Altruism, reflecting the concern for others and a sense of selflessness. Coopersmith's self-esteem components fit nicely into the medicine wheel model, power referring to personal power, but the emphasis on a holistic enhancement of self-esteem through the development of 4 spirits. Youngsters can then approach the world with courage and not be beat down by life's demands. The yin and yang model, representative of the teachings of Lao Tzu, Confucius, Buddha, however not in very good alignment with Sun Tzu's Art of War. Next up, Ron Karenga's Kwanzaa observance that is based on, in his words, African traditions and common humanistic principles. We see Umoja representing unity, family, community, and race. Ujima representing collective work and responsibility. Ujama meaning cooperative economics. Imani meaning faith in our people, teachers, leaders, a community struggle for righteousness. I'll have to have somebody pronounce the one in the lower left quadrant for me, but that reflecting self-determination and responsible free will. Nia is purpose, building and developing a sense of community. Kumba, leaving one's community more beautiful and beneficial than one found it, making one's brothers and sisters' problems one's own. La Raza, meaning the people in the Hispanic culture. We see some of the principles and how they align. But a rose by any other name, here are synonyms for the various quadrants of the circle of courage. And while you're at it, what is a synonym for synonym? The circle of courage provides us a model for understanding why it is that many of our society's youth have strayed so far from the straight and narrow path. It gives us strategies for reclaiming these youth, everyone from callous street kids to the privileged, spoiled, and directionless youth that we see so many of today. In the next segment of this podcast, we'll be looking at each individual section of the Circle of Courage model.